All right. So oxidation of alkenes, it depends on the like of course combustion is also a form of oxidation, and then oxidation is being done by ozonolysis also. But when you're doing oxidation in the laboratory, usually you take an oxidizing agent like potassium permanganate, right? So the extent of oxidation, like last time I said, whenever you're doing oxidation, first you get alcohols, then these form aldehydes or ketones depending on where the position of the double bond is. And aldehydes usually get oxidized further to carboxylic acids. So ketones also to some extent they do, but the extent of oxidation, whether you're going to get alcohol or aldehyde or ketone or carboxylic acid, is going to depend on the reaction conditions of KMNO4. So reaction conditions matlab how much of, like, what is the concentration of KMNO4, and are you taking it in like acidic medium or alkaline medium? So that sort of stuff. Okay. So the first is, if you're taking cold dilute aqueous KMNO4, typically in alkaline solutions, alkaline conditions. So acidified KMNO4 is like a more extreme oxidizing agent. But since we are sticking to cold dilute KMNO4, like of a lower concentration, this is going to give you something called a diol. So diol matlab di, there'll be two, all is alcohol group. So you'll have two OH groups added to it. So you're taking dilute cold aqueous KMNO4. So reaction is going to proceed only to this extent. Alcohol tak hi jaane wala hai. So for example, if you've got ethene, CH2 double bond CH2, cold dilute aqueous KMNO4, like you will see the reaction written as H2O plus oxygen, like a single oxygen atom in square brackets. So this usually indicates that we're getting this oxygen from an oxidizing agent like KMNO4 or potassium dichromate, and like really strong oxidizing agents like that. Because when it comes to these kind of oxidizing agents, right, so balancing kind of takes away the focus from the main organic compound that you're trying to track. So this is like a, like if you are trying to look for the organic reaction that is taking place here, like what's happening to ethene or propene or whatever you're taking, this is how the other reagents are specified. So on oxidation, this gives you, so that double bond breaks to single bond and two alcohol groups are added on either side of it. So these kind of compounds are also called glycols. So this specific compound is called ethylene glycol because it's, you get it from ethylene and it's a glycol, two OH groups on adjacent carbons. IUPAC name is of course 1,2-ethane diol. Okay. So similarly, if you take propene, so just that in place of the double bond, one of the bond, the pi bond gets broken and you get alcohol groups added on either side. Then on the other hand, if you take hot concentrated acidified KMNO4, okay, now these conditions, hot and concentrated, so you're getting a lot more of KMNO4 that is going to oxidize this further. So alcohol se bhi it's going to go further. Now, whether it's going to stop at aldehyde like a ketone or carboxylic acid will depend on what are the groups attached on both sides of the double bond. Okay. So what happens is, if you have C double bond C, and if you've got like alkyl groups attached on all sides, or let's say I have one alkyl group and we have hydrogen here. So this I'm just putting carbon. So it can be an ethane group, it can be a methyl group, it can be a propyl group, like any number of carbons. Okay. So this, if I'm treating with acidified KMnO4 in H plus, then whatever alcohol you get, like even if there's an OH group added on both sides, that is going to get further oxidized to carbonyl compounds. So carbonyl is basically C double bond O. So I'm going to get C double bond O, the same groups will be present here, plus C double bond O, and the same groups will be present here. So usually aldehydes are more easily oxidized than ketones. So what happens is you've got CHO group over here, right? So this also is going to, the hydrogen over here is also going to get oxidized to OH. So the another oxygen is going to get added over here. So basically you end up with C double bond OH, a carboxylic acid. Okay, so it's not like the reaction is going to stop at this. If you've got even more concentrated KMnO4, like if there's a lot more KMnO4 available, then even in the ketone, the carbon-carbon bonds are going to break, and eventually you might end up with just carbon dioxide water itself, or maybe some maybe carboxylic acids itself. But yeah, so KMnO4 in acidified medium is extremely strong oxidizing agent. And if at all any oxidation is required, you like in real life, practically speaking, alkaline KMnO4 is the one that's usually used. Acidified KMnO4, like in a different textbook, I've read it as devastatingly oxidizing. So it just oxidizes. It's a really strong oxidizing agent. Okay. So if you have to predict the products, right? Easy way to do it is wherever the double bond is. So first check the reaction conditions. If it is cold, dilute, aqueous KMnO4, then you just add alcohol groups and that's it. You get glycols, diols. Easy, reaction done. But if you have hot concentrated acidified KMnO4, if you have a stronger oxidizing agent, then wherever you have C double bond O, so just add oxygen in place, like just break the double bond and add oxygen on both sides of the double bond. So if you end up with a ketone, okay, like let that be the final product. But if you end up with an aldehyde, instead of an aldehyde, just make it a carboxylic acid. Okay. So I'll just give you an example problem. What products do you get on treating propene with cold dilute KMnO4? So give me the IUPAC name of the final product for this. This
Propane 1,2 diol.
propane 1,2 diol. Awesome. Easy. Okay. Then what product do you get on oxidation of this is a good one. 2-butene with hot concentrated KMnO4 in the presence of a few drops of H2SO4.
Here H2SO4 is just for hydrogen, no?
Yeah, acidified medium. So you're using sulfuric acid to create the acidified medium. So propene is CH3, CH double bond CH2. Presence of cold dilute KMnO4. You get CH3CH OH CH2OH. So propane 1,2-diol. So work out what are the products in this case.
I am able to do the first step, but after that, I am confused.
Like, how are you confused? Like, where are you getting confused?
Like I first I drew 2-butane.
CH3, CH double bond CH, CH3. So butene, 2-butene. Okay.
Now we break the double bond and add oxygen on both, like on both the sides.
Yeah. So
It
you
will
get
be CH3, CH3, CH, double bond O, ऐसे भी और फिर और दूसरे प्लस CH, double bond O. Same. I mean, this will be twice.
the exact same product only will be formed. Yes, correct. So अभी ये aldehyde हुआ कि ketone हुआ?
Aldehyde? Because
Aldehyde. Yes. You guys should get faster at recognizing this, huh? C double bond
Aldehyde.
OH. Yeah, this functional group मतलब aldehyde. अगर दोनों साइड कार्बन होता तो that would be a ketone. Okay. So aldehyde मतलब is it going to go further? Final product क्या होगा फिर?
After this, I'm unable to do.
हाँ.
Ethanoic acid.
so you add
yes.
one more oxygen, right?
Yes.
So, but how is, because I
How
did
will
it, and then how in the sense, I mean, where will you add it? Now I'm confused. Yeah.
the hydrogen part will get.
Carboxyl.
Yeah.
So ethanoic.
C
right?
double bond O. But for carboxylic acid, C double bond O H, right?
Carboxylic acid क्या है?
C double bond O O H.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So okay, double bond O and then H. Okay, got it. Sorry.
So you get 2 moles of ethanoic acid. C double bond O OH.
So
Ma'am,
ma'am,
again, how do we do
oxidation.
this? The oxygen from KMnO4 is doing this.
Yes. So KMnO4 is a really strong oxidizing agent. This is going to get reduced to MnO2. It depends on the extent of oxidation. So either MnO2 or like if it is in the case of cold dilute KMnO4, it gets reduced to a different in this case it is MnO2. In acidified case it gets reduced to Mn2 plus. So yeah.
Ma'am, I had a question. So,
Ma'am,
in this reaction, can you form ketones or is it always aldehydes?
Okay, I'll give you another case. This is also something I wanted to discuss. Okay, what if your reactant was this? Predict.
We'll continue with this thing.
Hmm?
Is my voice cracking? Because for me, I have a bit of lag.
Oh. No, it's not cracking, but I might have missed the first part of what you said.
I said it will be CH2O.
CH2O,
Plus,
like what compound
I
is
mean the
this?
first step I am talking
Huh. Always write the structure because then you're clear about
about. Okay.
what, okay, is it an aldehyde? Is it acid? Kya hoga further? Okay. Huh. Then next product.
Propane
CH,
2 only. Because CH3, the triangle mein, so CH3 is
right. Same.
CH3 and then double.
Yes. So you have carbon on both sides. So will this be the final products?
The first one, I think that'll be the final product. The second one can still become an aldehyde, I think. Because if,
No, it's the other way around.
I think,
Second
So
one is a ketone right now. No?
yeah, so this is a ketone. So this won't, like, for our textbook purposes, ketone will be a final product. Aldehydes are the ones that get easily oxidized. So if you have a single hydrogen versus a methyl or any alkyl
We add
group,
OH.
yeah. So aldehydes are more easily oxidized. Like removing a single hydrogen is easier than breaking the carbon-carbon bond. So aldehydes are the ones that get easily oxidized.
So it will be CH double bond double OH.
Yes, HCOH, formic acid. So
And the ketone will remain like this.
yeah, ketone, propanone will remain as it is.
Understood.
So the thing with methanoic acid is, so the, okay, actually this is something that you guys should be able to predict. What do you think will happen to the acidity of carboxylic acids, the acidic nature of carboxylic acids, as the number of carbon atoms increases?
Become more acidic.
Will it become more acidic or less acidic?
Less acidic.
So if I start off with methanoic acid, ethanoic acid, CH3COOH, propanoic acid. So as the number of carbon atoms increases, what do you think is happening to the acidic? More or less acidic?
Less acidic because of the I effect.
Yeah, I effect. So these are electron donating groups. It is going to destabilize the negative ion that is formed over here in each case. In this case, you don't have any electron donating group. You just have a hydrogen this thing. So this is the strongest acid. Okay. So yeah. So what happens is, only in the case of methanoic acid, this gets further oxidized to carbon dioxide and water. So any other acid, like if you have ethanoic acid, you let it be as it is. But only in the case of methanoic acid, formic acid, HCOOH, this gets further oxidized to carbon dioxide and water. Okay, so just like make note of that. That's a single thing that you just need to look at. So in the case of oxidation, there is no set general reaction as such. It completely depends on what reactants and what reagents you're taking. Okay, to summarize, the roughest equation that we can, like the most general equation we can consider, is usually the first step of oxidation is alcohols, and if there is more of the oxidizing agent available, if it's stronger, if you let the reaction happen for more time, they get oxidized to aldehydes or ketones, and aldehydes in turn are more easily oxidized to carboxylic acids. So these in particular. Okay. Then, so when we say reaction conditions, where you get your hints about how you're doing the reaction is, if you come across cold dilute, which means that you have less of this reagent available. So if you're taking cold dilute aqueous KMNO4, you get alcohols. Now, because OH is getting added to the double bond, you get diols. And if you're taking hot concentrated acidified, again, hot, you're letting the reaction happen more easily. Concentrated, there is more of the oxidizing agent available. So hot concentrated acidified KMNO4 will give you ketones, plus if there is any chance of aldehyde being formed, that's going to get oxidized to carboxylic acid. Okay?
Ma'am,
Yes, Manas.
what if they give a question in exam and they
Your voice.
don't mention acidified KMNO4 and they write hot KMNO4? So we carry out the same reaction.
Yeah, hot
Still.
concentrated matlab, yeah, you can take it all the way to aldehyde ketones. Okay, yeah, cool. So this is about oxidation. Ozonolysis is also kind of oxidation because you're adding an oxidation there. Okay, do you guys want a revision of ozonolysis? I think we should get started with alkynes, right? Alkynes and benzene are left. Let's do that. Okay. Now coming to alkynes, okay, this is the other unsaturated hydrocarbon. So how many sigma bonds? Okay, if I take ethyne, how many sigma bonds and how many pi bonds in ethyne?
3 sigma bonds and 2 pi bonds.
Very good, yes. So ethyne is the first member of an alkyne. It's got 2 carbon atoms connected by a triple bond. So alkynes are basically recognized by their triple bond. So you've got 1 sigma here, 1 sigma here, 1 sigma here. So triple bonds are made of, like the first overlap is sigma and the other 2 overlaps are the pi overlaps. So total of 3 sigma plus 2 pi bonds. Okay. You know the IUPAC nomenclature of alkynes. What is the general formula for alkynes?
CnH2n minus 2.
Yes, because you're adding a bond, you have to remove 2 more hydrogens. Yeah. And the first member ethyne, uska common name hai acetylene. Okay. So if you come across this, don't get confused. Ethylene is ethene, acetylene is ethyne. Right? Nomenclature. Okay. So what all different isomers can alkynes have?
Structural.
Okay. So structural में which types?
Will be position
Position.
because of change in वो
Yeah.
triple bond का location.
So change in
Second
triple
तो
bond
chain हो
Chain.
सकता है.
position, yes. The other one?
Chain
Chain.
So when you have branches, different branches.
Yeah.
branch.
Cool. Structure of triple bond. Okay. So yeah, so the first overlap is a sigma overlap and you have 2 other pi overlaps. All right. So preparation of alkynes, pretty easy. You just have one new type of preparation, which is the industrial preparation. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah. So the industrial preparation is basically ethyne is prepared by treating calcium carbide with water. So what is calcium carbide?
CCA.
CaC2.
CaC2. So as Taranum, yeah, it is a compound between calcium and carbon. But yeah, so you use the crisscross this thing, you've got 2 iscavalent CA4. No, sorry. So calcium carbide is CaC2. It is literally the compound between calcium and carbon. All right. So calcium carbide ka structure is very close to ethyne. So what happens is the 2 carbons are attached by a triple bond, and then you have 2 negative charges over here, and that is being satisfied by the 2 positive charges of carbon. So obviously you can see how and why it is easy to prepare ethyne from calcium carbide. So you already have the triple bond structure in place, you just have to add the hydrogens over here. So ethyne is prepared by treating calcium carbide with water. So where you get your hydrogen is by treating it with water molecules. How you get calcium carbide is when you heat quicklime with coke. All right. So these are the steps of preparing calcium carbide. Okay. So you need, just a moment. So the first one is industrial preparation. So when it comes to industrial preparation, you need to prepare it on a large scale with minimal raw materials, or at least easily available raw materials. Okay. So industrial preparation, you take calcium carbonate. On heating, what do you get on heating calcium carbonate?
Calcium oxide and carbon dioxide.
CO2.
Yes. So calcium oxide, commonly also called quicklime. Okay. So calcium oxide, when you heat it with coke, coke is basically a form of carbon, like kind of like coal. So when you heat it in excess of coke, you get calcium carbide. Yes,
CaC2.
CaC2. Okay. Now this CaC2 plus, of course, carbon is also oxidized. So this CaC2, you want to reduce it. So you want to add hydrogens to it. So you treat it with water. And you get calcium hydroxide plus ethyne, C2H2. So this is what is required. Okay. So this is the industrial preparation. So ethyne is prepared from calcium carbide, and how you get calcium carbide is by heating quicklime with coke. Okay, so this is one. And the second method of preparation is again similar to another method of preparation that you saw in alkenes. Okay, so this is basically dehydrohalogenation. So if you wanted to prepare alkenes and by dehydrohalogenation, you just needed to remove one hydrogen atom and one halogen atom, which means that you could get it from alkyl halides. But if you want to prepare an alkyne by dehydrohalogenation, what reactant would you need in this case?
Bromoethene or yeah.
Bromoethene. If you needed, like if you took a completely saturated compound, then because unsaturated is slightly
Saturated
different.
compound.
Hmm.
Okay. Ma'am, but won't it be a long process if you took a saturated compound?
Yeah, it's the same thing that is done twice, but usually that's preferable because unsaturated compounds are more unstable than saturated compounds.
Okay, okay.
That's the reason. Work it out. So dehydrohalogenation, you need it to be done twice. So to do it once, you've got one halogen atom and one hydrogen atom. If you wanted to like you wanted to do the same process again, then what else should be attached?
A halogen and a hydrogen.
Another halogen and a hydrogen. So which case would you consider? One or two?
One, right?
One. Like it's easy to do the beta elimination this way. Yes. Okay. So what are these compounds called? It's the
Ma'am, why do we choose one?
Haloalkane.
haloalkane, yes, but again, like what differentiates it from having just one halogen atom? This has two
Ma'am, there are
halogen.
dihalides and both on different carbon.
Vicinal dihalides.
Very good. Yes. So
Ma'am,
these are
but why don't we use both on same?
1 minute. I'll just come to that. Huh. So why don't we choose a structure where you have carbon atom? Because it's easier to remove the halogen uh, in the case of vicinal dihalides as opposed to this other case. So like remember you have beta elimination taking place. The hydrogen is removed from the beta carbon.
Yes, ma'am.
So once this happens, like this is a more so if you have halogens both on the same carbon, because of the presence of halogens, it affects the electron distribution, because halogens can have a tendency to attract the electrons, right? They have that minus I effect. So it kind of affects the electron distribution. In this case, the electron distribution between both these carbons is kind of similar, like because both the halogens are distributed amongst the adjacent carbon atoms. That's why it's like preferable to use vicinal as opposed to the geminal dihalides.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So do you remember what reagent you used for dehydrohalogenation? Recall in the production of alkenes, what reagent did you use for dehydrohalogenation?
Zinc and no, maybe
Fine powdered zinc, if I'm not, I mean, I think
So
that's
you used zinc for dehalogenation. But in this case, we are removing a hydrogen as well as a halogen. So if you use zinc on this, you're going to end up with an alkene. You're not going to get an alkyne.
Remember, you're gonna do this twice, right?
Yeah, but like the reagent that you use matters in how the reaction will go, right? So
Correct.
I'll show you what happens. So if I take zinc in this case and heat it with zinc, the zinc is going to take both the bromine atoms and I'm going to end up with an alkene. If I want to uh, produce an alkyne from this, I'll have to do something else to remove the hydrogen atoms. So zinc
We have to use
is a bad
something which
idea.
has a positive for Br and negative for hydrogen.
Yeah, it's like kind of that kind of a reagent, yes. So what did you use for dehydrohalogenation in general? Check your notes. Get back. Tell me what the
Did we
reagent.
use electrolysis? Or was
No,
that something else?
no, that was for preparation of alkanes. Cool.
You
Oh,
mean for preparation in from vicinal dihalide, na?
नहीं, focus on dehydrohalogenation. So alkenes के dehydrohalogenation के लिए क्या यूज किया हमने? Check. You guys making notes? Any of you checking?
Yes, no. For halogenation, we use light and chlorine.
Halogenation नहीं, dehydrohalogenation. एक
Is it
hydro-
potassium hydroxide dissolved in alcohol?
Yeah, alcoholic KOH, alcoholic potassium hydroxide. ठीक है? So if you use zinc is only going to take the bromine atoms. It's not going to do anything to the hydrogen, which is why you take alcoholic potassium hydroxide, so that this will cause dehydrohalogenation also. Okay, so you're going to end up with alkyne plus, so this basically happens in 2 steps. So first, of course, you're going to get an alkene, as we saw earlier. So you've got H, Br, then H, then H. So basically this Br and this hydrogen will be removed. So you get hydrogen on one side and you've got H and Br on the other side. Plus KBr plus H2O. Now this on further reduction in the presence of NaNH2, Na plus NH2 minus, is going to give an alkene. Plus NaBr plus NH3. So you need, as like Mayas, you said it right perfectly fine pehle. You need something that will take away the bromine also, and that will take away the hydrogen also. If you take zinc, that's going to act only on the bromine. So you're going to take these basic reagents. So alcoholic KOH to give you an alkene, haloalkene, which on further reaction is going to give you an alkyne. And you can see that, like the thing, the reagent to take away the bromine has gotten more and more basic with each step. So in the first step, you've got like K plus taking away bromine. In the second step, you've got Na and NH2 minus. So the proton acceptor, the base that you took, OH minus versus NH2 minus. NH2 minus is even more basic. It can accept H plus more easily as compared to OH minus. You can see that the basicity has increased. Okay, so these are the 2 ways of preparing alkynes. So the first way is like an industrial preparation where you're reducing calcium carbide. And how you get calcium carbide is by heating limestone. You get quicklime, and quicklime is heated with coke. Then another method of preparation, this is more of an industrial preparation. This is done by dehydrohalogenation of vicinal dihalides. So you take a vicinal dihalide. In order to remove hydrogen and a halogen, first step, you take alcoholic KOH to prepare a haloalkene, and then you treat it with NaNH2, and this is, I think, a sodium amide. I'll just quickly check and I'll confirm that. So this, again, the same thing will happen once again. Will give you ethyne along with your byproducts. Okay. And coming to the physical properties of alkynes, again, it's the same thing. The smaller alkynes are found in gases, and then they go on to liquids, and the higher alkynes are solids. So basically, as the mass increases, the intermolecular forces increase, and it progressively goes from gases to solids. All alkynes are colorless. Ethyne has a characteristic odor, like it's got some sort of smell. All other members are odorless. Alkynes are weakly polar in nature. Now, what is the reason for the polarity in alkynes, even though they have just like carbon and hydrogen? Can
Ma'am,
any
when they say weakly polar, what exactly do they mean again?
weakly polar? So they've got a bit of a polar nature. So alkanes are
Yep,
completely
very
non-polar,
faint.
right? Yeah. So alkanes are completely
Yeah.
non-polar. Like they've got no polarity at all. Like they're completely immiscible with water. Alkenes, it depended on the geometry, which makes sense, right? Like dipole moments, if you count. Yeah. Alkynes, on the other hand, if you take the simplest member, ethyne, it is
And most of their
completely
electron
here.
density is like concentrated in the middle.
Okay.
So yeah.
So you're saying that gives rise to the polarity. Yes. So you're partly correct. So again, polarity comes from how the electrons are distributed in the bonds. So how would you relate that to the polarity? Like which bond
So
is
if
polar in
you
nature?
like pi bond.
Pi bond?
No, I mean, I'm sorry. If you look at, I mean, if you look at the, you said no, the way electrons are distributed in the bonds. So there are like 6 electrons between the 2 carbons,
Okay.
right?
Mhm.
So it'll be like, it should be partially polar, like as it says weakly, because then the dipole moment should be inwards.
So which bond are you saying is polar? Is the carbon-carbon bond polar?
No,
Carbon-hydrogen?
carbon hydrogen bond polar.
Yeah. So there are 2 carbon-hydrogen bonds. So which direction would the first one be in?
The dipole moment.
Towards carbon.
Yeah, towards carbon.
Towards carbon, and this one?
I think it also should be towards the carbon, but then we contradict our point if we do that, because that means it balances out.
Mm. So the weak polarity comes in from it is in the carbon hydrogen bond itself, and it also, again, just like alkenes, it also depends on the structure of this molecule. So what is the hybridization of carbon in alkynes?
SP.
Sp, right? So compared to sp2, sp3, what can you say about the electronegativity of sp bonds?
It
More
is
electronegative.
It is
electronegative. Sorry.
high electronegativity, right? So you guys got on to the fact that there's going to be a dipole moment on this side. This particular carbon pulls the electrons from CH bond towards itself, and that is the reason for the polarity. So in ethyne, yes, they pull towards itself, but the electronegativity of this triple bond or the sp hybridized carbon is enough that ethyne shows a slightly acidic nature, which is why your carbides are possible, right? So that is where the polarity comes from. And if you look at higher alkynes, if you want to look at propyne, this is again pretty straightforward. Sorry, CH3 nahi hoga. Triple bond CH. So again, the polarity is going to be, like this part where you have the sp hybridized carbon connected to hydrogen being more polar as compared to the bond between this carbon and this carbon. All right, so you guys are like almost there. The main reason for the polarity is due to the sp hybridized carbon, which pulls the electrons towards itself, giving rise to the polarity, the weakly polar nature. That's
Ma'am, but this polarity should cancel each other out, na? दोनों same direction में है, तो center में तो.
Yeah, ideally, like normally it would cancel each other out, but in the case of ethyne, what is happening is the electronegativity is strong enough that it, as I showed here, like it gives rise to that weakly acidic nature of ethyne. It can let go of this hydrogen easily enough, so that strong polarity is still going to be there on both the sides. So overall net dipole moment to zero hoga, but it's still going to show the polar characteristics the way acids do, like HCl and all that. They are lighter than water, so density is less than water, and they're immiscible with water but soluble in organic solvents. The melting point, boiling point, density, all of them increase with increase in molar mass. Okay, now coming to chemical properties, again, as I said, because of the sp hybridized carbon, alkynes have a tendency to show somewhat of an acidic character. Now, acidic character comes into picture only if there is hydrogen bonded to the triple bonded carbon. Like if you have the triple bond somewhere in the middle of a chain, something like this is not going to show as much of an acidic character as something like this would show. All right, so you have acidic character of alkynes, especially when hydrogen is bonded to the triple bonded carbon. And another set of properties comes from the triple bond itself. So just like alkenes, the unsaturated nature of alkynes, like they also show addition reactions mainly. Okay, all right. So acidic character, matlab, again, same reactions as what you see with acids. They react with metals to displace hydrogen gas. Then they react with basic substances like Na, NH2. Again, so hydrogen is replaced. So you form this salt. And then you have
In the
addition.
above reactions,
Yeah,
where is the hydrogen going?
hydrogen is being released as a
The
gas.
first one, in the first one, the hydrogen is released
Yeah,
and we get Na.
yes.
In the second one, we again do the reaction and the other hydrogen is released and we get Na there too.
Yeah, so the other
But
hydrogen is also released.
but we also have a half H2Y.
So here, this was missing. The half H2 was to balance out the reaction, that's all.
Achha. So we add half H2 in the first reaction too.
Yes, added in the first reaction also. That would be correct.
And after that, what is the next step?
Next step, nay. So this is a different reagent again. Excuse me. Sorry.
Oh,
Winters.
In the first one, we added only Na, but in the second reaction, we are adding NaH2 together.
No, it's the same reaction. So here you have purely sodium metal. Here you have a basic substance, NaNH2. So, like the way you have NaOH, so Na is the cation, hydroxide is the anion. Similarly, instead of OH, you've got NH2 as your anion here.
Okay.
Okay. So basically, alkynes react with like really strong bases, sodium metal, NaNH2, to release hydrogen gas, which is a characteristic of acidic substances. Okay. So again, like alkenes and alkynes don't have that acidic hydrogen, which is why you can see here it's used for the distinction between alkynes, alkenes, and alkanes. Okay, so reaction with sodium metal gives you an idea of, okay, this is an alkyne. But how would you distinguish between alkene and an alkane? What is the test for differentiating between alkene and alkane?
Halogenation test for the bromine water thing
Bromine.
for alkane.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. Okay. So what is the indicator there? Like which one gives the reaction, alkene or alkane?
Alkene gives a reaction. Alkane does not react.
Yes. Alkene gives a reaction. It is basically a test for unsaturation because bromine gets added only if there is a double bond. Alkane does not give the reaction. Yeah. Cool. So these kind of reactions show the acidic character of alkynes. And then alkynes are basically, they have triple bonds, right? So you've got your regular addition reactions also. So the first addition reaction, again, addition of hydrogen gas. Again, same as hydrogenation in the presence of catalyst platinum or palladium or nickel. So adding 1 mole of hydrogen gives you alkenes, and if you pass hydrogen in excess, you eventually get alkanes. Then addition of halogens, again, the same thing as alkenes. You get dibromopropene, and on passing excess of bromine, again, you get tetrabromopropane. Okay.
The bromine water is given here.
Yeah. So bromine water test is basically a differentiation for unsaturation itself. So it differentiates between alkanes and alkenes and alkynes. So both alkenes, alkynes would give this test, which is why if you want to differentiate between alkene and alkyne, you have this set of reactions, the acidic nature. That will help you figure out.
Wait. A bromine water test is for alkenes and alkynes,
Yes.
and the acidic test is for
Differentiation between alkynes and alkenes, if I'm not wrong.
Correct. So,
Ma'am, but what is it called? Like, does it have like a specific name? Like this thing has test for unsaturation. Does that have like?
nah, like nothing like that. Because yeah, you're just basing it off of the acidic property. So that's it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Then addition of hydrogen halides. When it comes to unsymmetrical, like abhi tak, when you added two hydrogen atoms, same atoms were being added, so no difference. Halogens also same atoms were being added, so no difference. But when it comes to hydrogen halides, you're adding two different atoms, a hydrogen atom and a halogen atom. So whenever you come across addition reactions for alkynes also, these follow Markovnikov's addition rules. Okay. So what is the final product that you get when a hydrogen halide is added to an alkyne. So take ethyne only. So if you're adding hydrogen halide to ethyne, what is the final product that you're going to get? Is it going to be vicinal or geminal?
Geminal.
And the reason for that?
Because I can explain it when we do an example, because one carbon only will have lesser hydrogen, so the halides will attach to that.
Yeah, okay, tell me what is the first product?
Markovnikov rules. Oh, the first rule, the first will be CH.
CH.
Okay. In this case, Br can attach to any place. So CH, Br,
Okay,
and
CH
CH2.
and CH2 double bond. Okay.
So,
Then the
and the
second.
next step, the CH has less hydrogen, so the Br will attach again to CH,
Yes,
and the CH2 will get a hydrogen.
correct. So because of Markovnikov's addition rules, hydrogen is going to go with the atom that has more number of hydrogen atoms, and you'll end up with geminal dihalides. Awesome. Okay. Then addition of water. So alkynes are immiscible. They don't react with water, but under certain conditions. So if you add, like if it's done in the presence of um, mercury ions in acidified conditions, then you have the OH getting added to form, okay, this structure is wrong. You get enols which tautomerize to form ketones. So यहाँ पे OOH नहीं,
Yes, ma'am. I thought
yeah,
O is missing.
yeah.
Oh no, O is wrong.
It
Oh,
like
they don't
directly OH gets added. So H on one side and OH on the other side gets added. Again, in accordance with Markovnikov's addition rules. Okay, so this on isomerization, like specifically it's tautomerization. Now, because it is the isomerism between ketone and enol, en double bond all alcohol, it's called keto-enol tautomerization.
What is happening?
Okay, so they like alkynes don't mix with water, but if you change the conditions slightly, so in acidic conditions, if you add some ions in it, like mercury, in the presence of mercury ions, water does get added to alkynes. So you've got H being added on one side, OH being added on the other side. This is in accordance with Markovnikov's addition again. So the product that you get is something called an enol. So propene, prop-1-ene 2-ol, right? Like you've got a double bond also, because triple bond को add करे तो एक ही bond break हुआ, and you've got an OH group added to it. So enols are unstable. Like a more stable form of enol is for this atom to rearrange itself as a ketone. That's because of the electron displacement effects, right? So this will immediately tautomerize itself to a ketone.
What was tautomerize? I forgot.
Tautomerization is nothing but, like if the same compound is rearranging itself, right? So structure same ही है, 3 carbon
And I
atom
was
है.
unable.
Yeah, hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Huh. So tautomerization is nothing but it's a form of isomerization in which one functional group is changing into a different functional group. Like यहाँ पे alcohol group है that is rearranging to form a ketone group. So the special name given to that is tautomerization.
And how is CH3 getting an hydrogen? CH2.
यहाँ से OH जो है, this changes into a double bond and the H plus comes over here.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So just like with alkenes, alkynes also form Markovnikov addition rules. So इसलिए when you have addition of hydrogen halides, you get geminal dihalides, final product. And when you're adding water, before you can get diols, like the intermediate product, like the first product that's formed is a enol, which tautomerizes itself to form a ketone. So this is one correction that you guys need to do. So direct OH gets added to this carbon, not OOH. Okay, so this is one correction you guys need to do. And then we've got polymerization. So there's two different types of like polymerization is nothing but a single molecule becoming polymer. So a single molecule becoming multiple of itself. So there's two types of polymerization. You've got linear polymerization and cyclic polymerization. So if the single molecule is turning into multiple of itself in a straight line, so that would be linear polymerization. So this is how you get your polyethene. So if your first molecule was ethene, you get polyethene. If your first molecule is ethyne, you get polyethine or polyacetylene. So basically, one of the bond breaks. So यहाँ पे triple bond जो था, that's going to break to form a really long chain. So the way it's represented is this. So the bonds go out of the brackets taken n times because they are like really long chains of molecules. It's basically like this. CH double bond, CH double bond, CH double bond. नहीं, सारे double bond नहीं होते हैं. Sorry, my bad. So one ethyne molecule connected by single bonds to another unit of ethyne, connected by single bonds to another unit of ethyne, connected by single bonds to another unit of ethyne. That way. So this keeps going on and on like forever.
But aren't these ethenes?
Ethyne से हो रहा है ना. So polyethene is basically CH2 double bond CH2. एक bond break होके polyethene will only consist of
Okay, ठीक है.
ऐसे.
तभी double bond है because one hydrogen is missing.
I didn't get you. What? Again, polymer molecule, right? So in place of the double bond, this is just connected to other ethene molecules. In the case of ethyne, in place of the triple bond, the third bond is connected to other ethyne molecules.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So that is linear polymerization. Where plastics are used. So film of polyacetylene can be used as electrodes in batteries. They're good conductors. They're lighter and cheaper than metal conductors. Then cyclic polymerization. So if you have single ethyne molecules, एक bond like triple bond में से एक bond break होके, if they are getting attached to each other in a ring structure in a cyclic way. what do you eventually end up with?
Ma'am, can you repeat it again? I lost you.
हाँ. So cyclic polymerization में, so single like ethyne molecule is breaking up to form multiple of itself in a cyclic structure. So in this
Yeah.
case, what do you end up with? Final product.
Benzene.
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 Yes. Okay. So benzene is basically CH taken 3 times. That's why you get C6H6. So cyclic polymerization ke liye, again, this is one method of formation of benzene. When ethyne is passed through red hot iron tube at the specific temperature, it polymerizes into a ring structure, and that's how you get benzene. Okay, so these are the properties of ethyne. Now we'll learn more about benzene, like what happens and how it is and all of that. Cool. So ethyne is pretty easy. Preparation, there's two ways. You've got your industrial method and you've got your laboratory method, which is basically dehydrohalogenation of vicinal dihalides. When it comes to chemical properties, alkynes show acidic nature. So you've got a bunch of reactions where it reacts with really strong bases, and you've got addition reactions it shows because of its unsaturated nature. Triple bond hai, unsaturation, addition reactions. So addition reactions follow same rules as Markovnikov's rule, and that basically decides what's the final products you get. So that's it for alkynes. Now coming to benzene, aromatic compounds. Okay, so aromatic hydrocarbons are also called arenes. So the most characteristic feature of aromatic compounds is that they always have a kind of aroma. So they're pleasant smelling, you say. That's the reason they are called aromatic compounds. They may not always be pleasant smelling. Like all of you must be familiar with naphthalene.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So it has that characteristic smell, right? Mothballs. So that's,
Yeah.
yeah. So benzene also has a specific smell. Camphor has a smell. So majority of the smelly compounds are basically aromatic. So they have a ring structure in them. Okay. So aromatic compounds containing a benzene ring are called benzenoids. And in case they don't have a benzene ring, they are called non-benzenoids. Okay. So these are all benzenoids because they have a benzene ring in them. So benzene is called toluene. Naphthalene is basically a double ring structure. So the ring structure in itself is called benzene, but if the ring structure is present as an attachment to something, so this particular part is called a phenyl. So this particular branch or substituent is called a phenyl. Sometimes it's also shortened to PH. Okay, so you must have come across this in nomenclature. Like if you've got like a long aliphatic chain, CH3, CH2,
Yeah, and then
CH,
there is a benzene ring.
yeah. So whenever you have a structure like this is treated as a branch, as a substituent, and in that case, the prefix that you use is phenyl. Okay, that's why you've got biphenyl. So that's basically two phenyl structures attached to each other. Nomenclature, isomerism. Okay, so nomenclature of benzene compounds. Some of the basic benzene compounds have their own names. Like this is benzene. If there is a methyl group attached, this is called toluene. If there is an alcoholic group attached, this is called What's it called? Names.
Phenol,
Yeah.
Phenol. Yes. This is called, there's an
aniline.
aniline. So amine group attached, it's called aniline. If you have a carboxylic group attached, it's called, this is more straightforward. Carboxylic acid and aldehyde actually. Both are.
That is benzoic acid.
Benzoic acid.
Huh.
Benzoic. Sorry.
Benzoic, yes. Oic acid, benzene से बना है, so benzoic acid. This one. This follows same logic as benzoic acid. So
Benzal.
yes. नहीं, acid नहीं है.
Oh,
So this is
benzal.
benzaldehyde.
Benzaldehyde. Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. So it's an aldehyde made with benzene. So this is benzaldehyde. Okay. Cool. So these are like basic nomenclature, like names of benzene aromatic based compounds. Isomerism. So whenever you have branches, what are the different isomers possible in benzene? So you've got the
Meta, para. Yeah.
ortho, meta, para. What's the positions for ortho, meta, and para?
Ortho is 1, and 2.
Yes.
Para is 1, 4. So meta is 1, 3.
Yes. So if I have a substituent over here and over here, is this ortho or meta or para?
Meta.
Yes. Okay. So usually for ortho, meta, para, it doesn't matter which side it's on. It's more of the relative positions of both of these. They're essentially the same because you just flip it by 180 degrees. You just like turn it around and you get this anyway. So doesn't matter. Ortho, meta, para distributions. Structure of benzene. Okay. So formula of benzene is C6H6 and this is the structure of benzene. So what is the hybridization of carbon in benzene? Is it a single hybridization, multiple hybridizations? Like what is it?
sp2.
Single I didn't get single and double, but like there is only one more hybrid structure of benzene, right? So right now if it's basically the thing will like alternating double bonds. The double bonds switch.
Yeah. No, I'm asking what is the hybridization of carbon? Like, do you have two
Would
different
be
hybridizations?
sp2.
Yes.
No. Yeah. 'Cause
Okay. So all of them are sp2 hybridized carbons only. Yes. So that way, what can you say about the structure of benzene? Like, is it a 2D structure, 3D structure? What does it look like?
It's 2D.
Pakka? Everybody agrees with Taranu or anybody disagrees?
Mom, can you please repeat? I'm losing. I mean,
Oh, okay. Can I close my video? Will that help?
No,
Yes,
I
ma'am,
don't
it is happening with me too. Either it is on my end or
yeah.
Because it's happening to me too.
Oh, then it must be on my end then. Unstable internet. Is it better now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So sp2 hybridization hai. So I was asking what is the structure of the benzene compound? Like I was asking if it was a 2D geometry or a 3D geometry. Is it a
3D,
dimensional or three-dimensional?
3D, ma'am.
3D.
Because it has pi bonds as well, right? So how will you cannot
No, like let's consider just the sigma bonds, like just the sp.
then 1D. Oh, but wait, isn't it a planar structure? Sorry.
Planar structure, yes. So 2D, like you can put it flat on the paper. Okay.
Yeah.
So if this was the benzene just lying down, like imagine the hexagon is lying down over here, the pi bonds overlap are basically above and below the planar structure of benzene. So basically all the pi electrons are floating over here and over here. Okay. So if you looked at benzene sideways, this is what you'd see. So all the carbons are basically present over here, like hexagon may flat. Each of the carbon is basically attached to a hydrogen molecule, atom, sorry. And all the pi electrons are basically above and below this thing. All these are the pi electrons above and below the plane where the atoms are present. Okay. So this is kind of what enables the delocalization of electrons so easily in a benzene structure. So all the p orbitals need to do is basically just keep moving around, bonding between both the neighboring carbon atoms. So one time they're bent over this way, the other time they are like overlapping the other way. So basically what eventually ends up happening is that the single and double bonds are not shifting in real time. It's more like this is what is actually present in reality. So you have the 6 carbon atoms in a hexagon shape, and you have the pi electrons just forming a circle above and below the carbon atoms. So the p orbitals, like the electron cloud, is basically present uh, throughout, kind of like imagine a circular tube above and below this structure. So that is what basically ends up happening in the case of benzene. Like, are you guys able to get it? Are you able to visualize it?
Yes, ma'am.
So from top it kind of looks like this, and from sideways, yeah, if this is the plane of benzene, then you have a continuous tube of electrons upper and niche se. These are the pi electrons. This is like the sideways view, right? So that is the structure of benzene. And initially it was difficult for people to visualize that there could be uh, ring structures present. Like imagine structure of when benzene structure was not found out. um, so this so in the world of chemistry, like they knew, okay, there is some aromatic compound. When they analyzed it, they realized that, oh, iska formula has C6H6. It's got like 6 carbon atoms and 6 hydrogen atoms. Now imagine trying to figure out the structure of C6H6. Like you had to be like really out of the box thinker to figure out that, oh, a ring structure is possible in this case, right? Like there was a story also, like Kekule, who's the one who described the structure of benzene. People say that he got it in a dream, and he dreamt of a snake biting its own tail. So that's how he got the idea of a ring structure for benzene that way. Okay. And the reason why people were so stumped by this was because whatever other structure they tried out, right? Um, like when they were doing the reactions, they were not getting the expected products. Like for example, if they thought, oh, maybe the two of carbons were, like connected by triple bonds or whatever other permutation combination they tried out, those structures didn't allow for the kind of reactions that benzene was giving out, which is why everybody was like so stumped. All right. Now, even with Kekule's structure, now again, delocalization or resonance structures was not known at that time. Like people didn't just randomly get the idea of, something called resonance existing or something called delocalization of electrons was possible or not. So based on what Kekule had given for the structure to fit in, to satisfy the valencies of carbon and hydrogen, if there was alternating single and double bonds, it should technically be a trialkene. So there's 3 double bonds. So it should technically be a triene, which means that they should behave like an alkene with addition reactions. Like if it was treated with a halogen, it should add both atoms of the halogen by breaking a double bond.
Yeah. But that is the case.
Yeah, but that is not what happened in reality. So, however, benzene was found to form only one ortho-distributed product. So that, like, in order to figure out why that was, that is how Kekule got the idea that, okay, maybe the two bonds are oscillating and, like they're alternating with each other. So that's how the idea for aromatization or delocalization of electrons was, like the idea for that came about. Okay, so resonance and stability. Now, because of this resonance, because benzene has two resonance structure, and because of this delocalization of electrons, that gives benzene the extra stability, making it not behave like an alkene. So it's not easy to break these double bonds because they are not simply double bonds, like they're involved in like keeping the whole structure together. Okay, so that's why even though aromatic compounds are unsaturated, we have to like they form a different class of compounds of their own. Like we have to study them as a completely different set of compounds. Okay, yeah. So this is describing the overlaps and bonding in benzene. So you've got your sigma overlaps, and upar se you've got the pi bond overlaps. Oh, there you go. So this is what the electron cloud looks like. You've got like a stuffed donut with CH filling in the middle. Yeah. Okay. Aromaticity. So basically, Huckel gave a rule that any ring system is considered aromatic if it satisfies these conditions. One, it should be a planar structure. If it's not planar, then how are the pi electrons going to overlap with each other? Like the delocalization is possible only if all the electrons are in the same plane. So
Ma'am?
planar, yes, Mayas?
How do we make sure something is planar or not?
So uske liye hi, if you want planarity, which hybridization has a component of all the electrons lying in the same plane?
sp2.
sp2. So इसी से like the simpler way to look at it is, if you have only sp2 hybridized atoms in the structure, it's going to give rise to planar structure. That is why you come across this thing that check for alternating single and double bonds. So,
But why sp2? Why can't?
if it is sp3, okay, so to एक बॉन्ड ऐसे रहेगा, दूसरा बॉन्ड फिर दूसरे प्लेन में जाएगा ना. फिर यहाँ पे
For
ऐसे branch
sp3.
हो जाएगा. Yeah. But
Okay.
in the case
And why
of
not sp? It will have only one.
that's very good. Like, yeah, SP is also possible, but SP के case में ना, it forms a linear structure.
There are no pi electrons there.
Pi electrons are present, but there are two different sets of pi electrons in the case of SP. So one is like above the below plane, one is like ahead and behind this set of atoms also. And secondly, SP के case में, you have a linear structure that basically occurs here. So it's going to be like an extremely really long ring. Like you don't get the perfectly planar structure that you get with sp2. So sp ke case mein it's linear, forms like a long line rather than
Wait.
being
sp3 means a triple bond. No, sorry. Sp means a triple bond.
yeah.
So sp has one ss bond, which is horizontal, and two p bonds which are parallel.
They are perpendicular to each other.
Perpendicular to s bonds, but
Yeah.
matlab one in x, one in z, and one in y
Yes.
direction.
Correct.
So technically, this means sp is somewhat a 3D figure, or
Kind.
not.
Yes.
And when we are talking about sp3,
Hmm.
we are talking about just a single bond.
Single bond only. Yes.
That is s bond, that is horizontal.
Sigma bond. It's not horizontal. Again, three like tetrahedral structure hoga na. So all of them are going to be in completely different planes.
Okay.
Aisa. But in the case of sp2, all of them are in the same plane. So it allows for the pi electron to like line up nicely above and below that plane.
Understood.
Okay. Yeah. So this planarity condition is basically what tells you to look for alternating single and double bonds. So that way, all of the atoms involved in that ring are sp2 atoms. It'll just ensure of that. Second is there needs to be complete delocalization of the pi electrons in that ring. And third is like this is basically these are the rules that you can apply to see whether something is aromatic or not. So if you have 4n plus 2 pi electrons in the ring, like for example benzene may, you have 6 pi electrons in the ring, so 2 here, 2 here, 2 here. See if it is fitting 4n plus 2 this thing. So 4 into 1 plus 2, that is equal to 6 electrons. It is satisfying the 4n plus 2 pi electron rule. So yeah, you can confirm that yes, benzene is capable of showing aromatic properties. Similarly, you've got like cyclopentadienyl anion. So one, यहाँ पे double bond है, so this is sp2. यहाँ पे double bond है, this is sp2. यहाँ पे दो bonds है, but because this is an anion, this also shows sp2 hybridization. So because all of them are sp2 hybridization, you can ensure that all of the structure is also planar. Second, see if there are 4n plus 2 pi electrons. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and the lone pair on this, because it's got a negative charge, is present in the p orbital. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pi electrons fits the 4n plus 2 rule.
So, ma'am, whenever such electrons are like there, we just assume them to be in like the p shell, right?
Yes.
What?
Yeah, the p orbital. Yeah.
Yeah, p orbital. Okay.
Yeah. So we'll do one more exercise in this. Check how naphthalene is satisfying this. So structure of naphthalene is
It
basically
is planar because it's two benzene rings, so it has to be planar.
yeah. So confirm that all of them are sp2 hybridized. So planarity, yes or no? Yeah, planar. Next, check how many pi electrons are there. Are there 4n plus, like are the number of pi electrons satisfying 4n plus 2?
Yes, ma'am. N is equal to 2.
So when n equal to 2, 4 into 2, 8 plus 2, 10.
Yeah.
So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pi electrons. So yeah, so that's how you can conclude, yes, naphthalene also is aromatic.
So, ma'am, this is like some sort of a rule for aromaticity, right?
Correct.
So, if you come across any question that asks, if you do you think the compound is aromatic or not, justify. So we
Yeah,
use.
correct.
Okay.
So it's called Huckel's rule.
Ma'am, I had a question.
Yep.
In class, ma'am gave us an example. I was not able to understand. She drew a triangle
Okay.
and with one single bond, and asked whether it is aromatic or not.
The triangle with one double bond. Is it? Okay.
This is not aromatic, no?
This, you tell me, is it this, would this be planar?
Oh, yes.
Is it?
Because sp2 नहीं
This is
मतलब नहीं होगा
sp2.
शायद.
This is sp2. What about this?
So, ma'am, every carbon atom in a compound has to be sp2 in an order to be a planar structure.
Yes.
Okay, so it
Okay.
will not be planar.
Oh, okay.
And
And
it also not follows the law.
yeah, Huckel's rule, yes. So even this is not being satisfied. Like one can argue that if n equal to 0, 2 pi electrons, there are 2 pi electrons, right?
But why n0?
So wahi, like n cannot be equal to 0, like value of n for this purpose starts from 1 onwards.
Value of n can be 0, but not in this case, na?
Not in this case because it's not like planar.
And the next step was she added a plus a cation
Yes.
in the same question.
Correct. Okay.
Do
Now,
cations really make a difference?
yeah. So if you removed one of the bonds from this, so originally यहाँ पे क्या था? So you had this thing and then you've got 2 hydrogens present, right? So in this case, cation matlab you removed one of the hydrogens here. So there's only one hydrogen. So इस कार्बन का हाइब्रिडाइजेशन क्या हो गया अभी?
I don't know. sp3 only, I guess.
कितने इलेक्ट्रॉन्स है इस कार्बन के पास टोटल अभी?
3.
हाँ, कितने इलेक्ट्रॉन्स?
Remaining.
या दो टोटल कितने
One.
इलेक्ट्रॉन्स है? या
7. But that's, oh no, not 7, 6.
कैसे? 6. So you have one here, you have one here. So 6 electrons, if you had to distribute it symmetrically around this carbon, तो कितने orbitals चाहिए रहेंगे?
2 orbitals.
हाँ, 6 electrons,
1s2 2s2 2p2 3 orbitals.
3 orbitals. So 3 orbitals के लिए no, total 6 electrons नहीं, like outermost shell में 3 orbitals में distribute करना है, तो what hybridization should this carbon undergo?
sp3.
नहीं, sp3 में total how many sp3 hybrid orbitals will be formed?
Oh, No, four.
4. So you want only 3 because it's got 6 electrons. So what
Yeah.
hybridization?
sp2.
sp2.
sp2. So now what is the hybridization for all of these atoms here?
sp2.
sp2. So now can you say whether this is planar or not?
That's planar.
It is planar, right?
Again, can you explain how?
Yeah. So in this structure, planar ke liye, basically you need to ensure that all the atoms have sp2 hybridization.
I get that, but carbon, first we count the number of electrons.
Yeah.
For the one bond in the 2 bonds at the bottom, we count 4 electrons, and the hydrogen we count 2 electrons more.
Yes.
So it
So
has
total
6
there are
electrons.
6 electrons.
So what does the plus sign do? We should count one less, na?
नहीं, ये plus sign के साथ ही, like the plus sign is there because it has only 6 electrons total. So hydrogen, carbon ka originally whatever carbon had, it took one extra and it left. That is where this plus sign is coming from. So originally you had 2 electrons here, 2 electrons here, hydrogen के साथ 2 electrons here, and then there was one hydrogen. Each of them was contributing 1 electron. One was hydrogen's own, and this is carbon's electron. Hydrogen went and took both the electrons, leaving carbon with a single positive charge here. Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Better? What? Or let me put it this way. So carbon के पास originally कितने electrons है? By default कितना electrons होना चाहिए carbon के पास?
6.
हाँ, valence electrons जो bonding में 4, right? I'll represent them with dots. So it'll share these 4 electrons with other atoms in order to fulfill octet. So एक आ गया एक दूसरे कार्बन के साथ, एक और आ गया एक दूसरे कार्बन के साथ, these two have the double bond going. तीसरा आ गया एक हाइड्रोजन के साथ, and the fourth one happened with one more hydrogen. 4 different bonds, sp3 hybridization है. Okay. Now this hydrogen, when it left, it took away both the electrons. So originally जो 4 electrons थे carbon के पास, it lost one of them, which is where the positive charge is coming from. Because it is missing one of its own electrons.
Okay.
Okay, so that's why now it has 6 electrons and 1 positive charge.
It has 6 electrons, and what was the next step? We find the hybridization.
Yes. So once you confirm
6 electrons means 6 electrons means 3 orbitals. So sp2.
yes,
Okay. Ma'am, can we do one more?
one more. Okay. Let me see what other. Okay, I'll have to look for. So something simple or difficult? Let me check. Okay. Check for aromaticity in this compound. Yeah, this one.
This is not cyclic.
Hmm?
Is that joined or
Cyclic है ना?
अच्छा?
यहाँ पे कार्बन एटम है, माइनस चार्ज है.
Ma'am, it is not aromatic.
This is a good question actually. This takes up a different case other than what we have over here. It's a good one.
I think it's not aromatic. I mean,
So it depends on the hybridization of this carbon atom, right? So
yeah.
what do you think is the hybridization of this carbon?
The outer, the number of electrons in its outer shell is 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, because there's an extra electron, so it means four hybrid orbitals, right? If I'm not wrong.
No, but
I mean,
how many bonds does it have?
3.
So 3 bonds के लिए कितने hybrid orbitals चाहिए?
3. So sp2.
Yeah.
But then there is a.
So these
Well,
extra electrons lie in the remaining p orbital that is there.
Oh, okay. Now that I didn't know.
This is what, yeah.
Because I thought of 3, but then that extra cation also added, so it became 4.